Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the latest episode of Disorderly Conduct, live from the Lazy Fox in Fulham, which again could be for the last possible time.
Hasn't it been the last time for the last 3 months?
I know. It's been the last time in for a while here, but hopefully this won't be the last time you hear the show, as we'll find a new location. In the meantime, it's been an interesting week, has it not? We've seen Caitlyn Jenner turn from male to his true self. We've seen
I don't know who that is either. No idea.
Bruce Jenner, isn't it?
Formerly Bruce Jenner, now Caitlyn Jenner. I'll show you the pictures later.
Who is this?
The most beautiful girl in the world.
Okay, good. I don't think I can take part in this podcast at all.
Yes, so but we'll come back to that later. We've also seen probably one of the most Catholic countries in the world turn to legalize gay marriage or same-sex marriage, and the world hasn't come to an end. We've seen more unfortunate souls drown off the Mediterranean due to inaction. But
that's only because they just started filming them again.
Yes, it's happening all the time.
It's happening all the time. They just put a camera on there because one big one happened. It's messed up, mate.
It is terrible.
Carry on. Ignore me.
There's no ignoring you, James. I'm joined by a superb team of people, guys. If you
modern age,
I'm joined by
that's messed up.
The Jam Master James. How are you?
Yo, I'm good.
By the Grim Grimes. How are you?
I'm swell, thank you.
And for the first time ever, ladies and gentlemen, she's come to us to find out what Fulham life's really all about. The lovely Charlotte, how are you?
Hello, I'm great, thank you.
Welcome to the show. Where are you from, Charlotte?
Originally, I'm from Leicester.
I kept thinking you were an Aussie. I don't know why.
No, of course not.
Okay, well, no, thank you for coming. And later on, we'll be joined by the amazing Sonny, who's on his way to us now. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Disorderly Conduct, live from the Lazy Fox. Now, first up this week is obviously we've got a brand new government, which again, who voted here?
Yeah, I did.
I did not.
Why didn't you vote, Charlotte?
I would have done if I was registered in Fulham, but I'm not.
Oh no!
So I couldn't. But I didn't know about, what was it you said?
Postal voting.
Postal voting. I didn't know about that.
If you're not where you're meant to be, you can postal vote. But then that's the fault of the government or your local authority not making you aware of that as well. You know, postal voting's been done for a long time now. Yeah.
They didn't want to let you know.
And do you know who your local MP is?
No.
See, again, a fault of your local government. Again, not letting you know who your local MP is at all.
Exactly.
It's not your fault, Charlotte. Many would possibly blame the youth for today, but I think they're being let down by the modern government's inability to let them know what's going on.
I agree.
Now, speaking of young people, I saw this story, and I just want to hit on it first because it confuses me. As even though I was born in England, it still confuses me sometimes because they've now started handing out questionnaires to kids as young as 6 or 7, and basically ask them, say, questions to find out if they're extremists.
So are we talking normal Haribo or Tang Fastics? Is it that kind of question? And if you go with Tang Fastics, you're obviously an extremist.
Barney the dinosaur or Barney late?
Here's a few of the questions, and I just want to know quickly what you guys would answer to these questions. Okay. All right. So first, I'll ask each of you a different question. I'll ask. As soon as you're a newbie here, Charlotte, I'll ask you first.
Okay.
And one of the questions they ask is, do you believe that God has a purpose for you?
No, I think me personally not, but I think I appreciate the fact that people have faith and they enjoy having something to believe in, but me personally I don't need that. Other people do. Okay. I appreciate that.
It's a fair answer. Grimesy, here's your question. People from a different religion are probably just as good as people from mine. Do you agree with that statement?
I don't have a religion. I don't have a religion, so I can't really answer that fully, but yeah, we're all people. We are the world.
This is messed up. 6-year-olds, yeah?
Yeah. James, and here's your question. Women are just as good as men at work.
No.
Okay, here we go. What's your answer?
Depends what work. Now, if we're talking about hod carrying, then probably not. But unless you have a really butch woman that's doing that, but I think you're going to have more men to be able to do that. Oh man, what a messed up question. Sorry, no. God, no.
Okay, my question for myself is, if a student was making fun of my race or religion, I would try to make them stop, even if it required hurting them.
Can you say that again? I didn't come out straight. I don't know what you just said.
If a student was making fun of my race or religion, I would try and make fun of them. I would try to make them stop, even if it required hurting them. Now, I don't have a religion unless it's called porn, and if somebody was making them taking the piss out of that, I'd be like, fair enough.
I'd hold them down if they were taking the piss out of my porn collection. I'd say they're dying.
I'd go, what have you got that's better? And I wouldn't hurt somebody. I don't think if somebody had a different point of view, I wouldn't hurt them unless it was kill all the black people. Then I might be tempted to hurt somebody. But outside of that...
but being a white extremist yourself, Curtis, that's a bit worrying to hear.
Well, I love the white woman. No, I didn't. That was really a joke. And apparently the survey also asked how much they trust the police and people from other races and religion, whether they'd do what adults told them to do, even if it seemed strange. And I'm like, that's not a survey for extremism, isn't it? A survey for common sense.
That's a survey for don't talk to strange people.
Are you being groomed? Maybe.
You're an extremist, kid. Well done. I just screwed up. No, that is horrible. What question?
But that's actual surveys. I don't know. It might not be as young as that. It may be like slightly older, like secondary school grade. Like, did you ever have surveys like that, guys, in school? Did they ever want to know what you felt about stuff?
No.
I thought a better survey would be like, how do you feel about drugs?
I didn't know what drugs were when I was that age.
Well, yeah, there you go. But let's say a bit older, about 12. Would that be an appropriate question to be asking?
Cowpole, loved it.
I just find it. I just find it strange when talk to the mic.
Okay, sorry. How about this then? If you're saying to maybe a 12-year-old, okay, what drugs do you know? If they can list,
I actually had that in
maybe more than
when you were 12.
Well, yeah, anyone. I didn't have that.
I knew
not saying I did.
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, what drugs do you know? And then if they can name 5, then you should be probably worried because then they're exposed to it. Whereas if you're asking, does God have a purpose for me?
They probably all play
I don't know. I'm not sure at 6 or even 12 what God is, what a purpose is, what you mean by the question in the first place. Yes, God has a purpose for me. Yes.
I want to play
what if that kid believes in fate? And what if he's been brought up? Yes, God has a purpose for me because fate will take me there. And so maybe that's an oxymoron, fate and God. But then again, God creates that fate for you.
It's completely reliant on how you're brought up, really.
Yeah, it does.
There was that funny picture on Facebook, and there was like this little, it must have been a toddler, 3-4 years old, like rainbow top with his 2 dads, and it was like a
rainbow top with 2 dads.
Yeah, so it was
okay, got it. I'm there.
Thing, like the dad, their son, they've obviously adopted the son, or however it's gone.
Yeah.
And then some dude was like, oh, I hate it when kids get taken along to these things, they don't know what's going on, they don't know the real meaning behind everything, blah blah blah. And then someone's just swapped the whole gay pride thing. It's like, oh, I hate it when kids get dragged along to church, they don't know what's going on, get forced into religion, don't have a real opinion on it, they just get like mind washed into doing the same thing. It's like, you're brought up thinking the way that your parents do, or whoever is around you think. Like, you're brought up in the same
I
unless you just want to rebel against everyone.
I understand both sides of the argument there, but I would probably go so far to think that a kid that's brought up with 2 dads that are gay is probably more informed about the world than a kid that's brought up in a very religious community that goes to church every week. They're probably not as open-minded.
Not the whole gay thing.
No, I understand.
I have nothing against.
I know that.
But it's like literally like when you're brought up in like such a strict religious community, then you're restricted into your mindset, and you're like kind of, it's not your choice.
Have you ever heard the term? If you're an apple, if you're a worm in an apple, all you know is apple.
I would say that I do have a problem with gay people, and that's that they dress so much better than I do, and that really stresses me out. But apart
Where do they get that money?
So damned good looking. No, but I think it's one of those things. Extremism, I don't know what causes it. Religion's usually there, but it doesn't always take religion.
Is this inherently racist? What you're saying? Even doing this survey, do they do it this way in the school? Oh, there were no Asian kids in that school, so we're not going to conduct this survey. We're going to go, there's some Asian kids in that school. Let's go and conduct this survey. And don't worry if little white Johnny isn't going to be in on that day. We're going to want to talk to the Asian kids. It's like, how messed up is that? Come on.
Well, that's the thing. That's
inherently culturally racist.
That's the thing that disturbs me the most, because I remember I grew up during the troubles, not a bit troubles in Ireland, but when there was bombings over here and all the rest of it. And not once did they go into any schools and ask the kids whether they were extremists. And I think it's just another attempt by this government, which I might also add has introduced a new rule to Parliament to vet TV programmes so they don't put out extremist views. What is an extremist view? Do you know what I mean? It may sound like a silly question, but what actually is an extremist view that isn't acceptable? Because a couple of weeks ago, Katie Hopkins was calling the immigrants who drowned on the boat cockroaches, which is very similar to what the Nazis were saying about Jews before World War II.
Are we allowed to kill that woman?
I think you're going to say, are we allowed to kill her? Probably not. It's probably a bit bad as well. But
but I mean, like,
I'm not. Well, whether or not we should kill her, it's like, what is an extremist view? When somebody comes out and says something like that, and we're worrying about,
she's an extreme moron.
Well, yeah, but then she needs medical help, not murder. I'd say in that case.
Exactly. What point does this free country say that is enough? You're not allowed to say that kind of thing.
Will people ever do it? The Tories have introduced a new policy, like I said, that says that every TV programme, the Ofcom should be allowed to vet it to see if it's got appropriate views. Now, who in Ofcom's going to be able to make that decision? Are we saying that people aren't allowed their own views? Are we saying that if somebody makes a programme about terrorists, telling it from their point of view, that programme should be banned? Did anybody see that film Four Lions?
Yes.
No. Four Lions told it from the perspective of these guys who were a bunch of... It was actually a comedy, and I don't know how funny it actually was, but...
It was hilarious.
Yeah. So, it told it from their point of view, and it was quite funny, and it had quite a touching end, and you were like, oh... Would that have been banned under these new rules the Tories want to be in? I remember when they banned... There was a time that if you were an Irish Republican... they had to block your voice out, and you had to have an actor saying the words of the Republican. You weren't allowed to hear their voice on TV. That's something that Thatcher done. Are we actually that worried about extremists? There's only... The last time we had a bombing in this country was, 2001? Maybe?
2007.
Yeah, and I'm like...
London.
Yeah, that was the London bombing. Are we that scared of people that were bringing in these rules? Even though it's a minority within a minority within a minority that do that type of thing. Why are we so scared of them all? And I think it's partly because they're all brown people and they're a bit like, ooh, that's a bit terrible. There's that place where they hold all the illegal immigrants in, right? And I guarantee you they're all brown people there. Why does the government feel it can get away with this? Because if I speak to you guys, you all go, it's disgusting, it's terrible.
So I think there's a bigger picture here. What are they seeing that we're not? That is coming out of places that have Asian people. That the likes of your Pakistans, your Indias, your Kazakhstan, your Middle Eastern countries that are currently that are currently in poverty because the Western world wants to live in the way it wants to live, and it is abusing the financial powers over there. They live on under $2 a day. You have most of the planet living on under $2 a day, but they're still making our t-shirts and our food and our making our westernized culture possible. And so no wonder they're pissed at us, because we're not giving any of that wealth back, and we're charging 1,000 times more than it costs to produce of the thing, and the money is not going back to them.
I disagree with you slightly, because those countries where that's happening, I think all this is about politics. If you look at Philippines, all those countries or Thailand, where you have large Muslim populations, there's no problem there. The Middle East, though, where you've got the politics of Israel, where you've got the politics of Shia versus what's it? It's Shia.
But how much Sunni and Shia?
Sunni and Shia. That's where you have these problems. But everywhere out of there, you don't seem to have those problems.
Or we don't hear about it because there's so much going on. And I don't know about you, but I don't watch the World 24 scrolling news because it'd probably be so completely depressing. But we don't have access to all of that stuff. I think there probably is another occupied territory out there we just don't know about. There probably is some horrific things going on that we don't know about that we are directly causing. And so what they're hearing as those nations are emerging and being able to broadcast and produce more things over the internet, what the government's seeing, what are we stopping, what are we hearing about, and probably one of those things is this kind of grooming of the younger generations, but that's also being filtered into us from Hollywood as well, So who knows? We don't know.
I just think if you take. I think the situation needs to be simplified because at the end of the day, you can always put more stuff in there. But I think the government, you can simplify it to this point, right? The government's only seeing things that makes them possibly a bit terrified and lose a couple of hours sleep, right? They're not telling us, or there's not much going on, and they're just guessing what's going to happen. They're just guessing what might happen in the future. Because at the end of the day, most of the problems that we have today have been caused by what the government have done.
Or it's the whole conspiracy argument that they are kind of feeding this rhetoric back into us as a people to be able to control us because we're getting too powerful as a people.
Possibly. Well, let's do a quick survey. Are you worried that you're going to be there'll be a terrorist attack at any point in London?
Worried is a strong word. I mean,
get to the mic.
I don't really care, to be honest.
No, you don't care.
Of course, you'd care if it happened.
No, but that's fair. Are you worried about?
You can worry about everything, but
I'm not. I don't think about it 24/7. I don't think about it every day. But when you think about it in perspective, it's like anything could happen. Like, you didn't expect 9/11. That happened. Like, anything could happen at any time.
What about you, James? Do you worry day to day? Is it something that crosses your mind?
I'll be honest with you, yeah, probably, because London is one of the most financially focused cities in the world. It's where some of the financial hubs are. Why wouldn't it be a target? It's where westernized culture is. What's the word? What's the word I'm looking for? It is. Yeah, I guess it is an epicenter of westernized culture.
Absolutely.
And so it's a complete target, and we're also in between that stepping stone between them and the US. So of course, why don't they take us out first, but before they even get whatever they're going to get over there? So yeah, of course, it's going to happen. It's not an if, it's a when. That's the sad truth that I think is out there.
It's sad.
I need to cheer you guys up. We're going to take a quick break and come back, and we're going to talk about benefits and the role of society in the lives of people, and we'll come back to that in a short moment. Guys, you've been rocking so far. I'm going to make you pick your mic up and keep it close to your mouth.
I guess the only thing I want to say at the end of that is why change what we do and how we do it and lie down for fear?
Yeah,
no way.
Exactly.
That's the whole thing. Why are we making laws based solely on what a minority might do? Do you know what I mean? And that scares me because, like I said, there's going to be a lot of if I go. What's really confusing is whenever I go onto Facebook, right? It could be a story about anything, yeah. And then there's some dude just going, "Well, look what they do in Muslim countries." It's like it could be about any subject. They talk about Caitlyn Jenner, and they're bringing up Muslims. They talk about benefits. They're bringing up Muslims, and that's what scares me more. That we focus on what a minority within a minority is doing, and we talk about how we're not scared. But there are people out there who are making the rules who are terrified and seem to be bringing in laws and rules that affect our lives day to day.
But isn't that's more about control though? That's population control. That's not necessarily the reality of what's happening.
Like China. controlling the population, you can only have like 2 kids.
Yeah.
One
Child.
One child, yeah.
One child.
What happens if you have more than one child?
You have to pay for it.
You get fined, or you can. I think the child can be taken away. I think.
Okay.
Awful.
Were we taking a break?
Yes, we're taking a break, ladies and gentlemen. This is Disorderly Conduct. We'll be back with more shortly.
Woo!
Woohoo! Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. Here, ladies, Fox, Disorderly Conduct. It's feeling good. Everybody talked out about the whole extremism for kids survey that they put into schools.
Child extreme.
And next we're going on with the news. Again, a new policy that was announced in the Queen's speech is that tens of thousands of children risk being plunged into poverty by the government, which plans to lower the household benefits capped. And it's a reduction in the upper limit of what families will be able to claim annually from 26,000 to 23,000, which I don't know who that sounds to like a lot of money, but to me that's not that much of money over a year. But they're going to cut it down, and this is in part a response to does anybody look at the Daily Mail now and again?
Never.
No.
Well, they have they have reports every now and again that people who are cheating, not people who are claiming legitimately, but people who are cheating the benefit system, or about the guy with 13 kids who's living off the benefits of his children unemployed. Now, it ties into the bigger issue of how much should the state play in people's lives. Now, I don't know about you guys, I pay quite a bit of tax, and yes, it does annoy me when I see people getting loads of benefits and me not, but that's just my basic jealousy. I think if you're a woman in this country and you're brave enough to have kids, that you should get money for it. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to say we're just being joined by the amazing Sonny. Thank you for coming down on this beautiful day, Sonny. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm not too bad. Now, we're just about to talk about benefits in this country and about how the government's about to cap the amount of benefits somebody can get. It ties into education, obviously, because young people are having to pay for their education in this country now as well. I know, Sonny, you're jetting off eventually to some other heights, but again, you're going to a country which very tight on benefits, doesn't like giving them. My question to you guys is, should the state be paying for anything? Should we as individuals expect support from the state if we're unemployed or having kids? Or should we just go, well, no, if that's your decision in life to do it, that's your decision. Exactly. I put it to you guys, what do you think? What's your stance on this?
If you deserve it, you should get it.
Who decides who deserves?
Logic. If you're spouting out a kid every 2 years just because you get fucking money for it, then sterilise the cunt.
There are people that use children as...
Why is it annoying? Yeah, but Chris,
on their own, who can't find a job, who are probably well trained and who aren't getting money because they're trained and they can get a job, and they don't have kids and they can just about get by on like a minimum wage thing, and they're just not getting any help. Or you'll get like some person who's just like at home spouting out kids, benefits going everywhere.
Yeah, but they're going on the benefits are going on the kids for the most part. If you're having kids,
Birdie's buying horses for her kids up in Manchester.
Yeah, but again, how can we? Oh, no, I'll put it to you, Grimes. All right.
She can go out and get a fucking job.
The majority of people. Hold on. The majority of people on benefits, right, are not buying horses. They're not going on holidays. Hold on. They're not going on holidays.
If you can't get a job, if you've got a kid,
but that's not the government's That's not what the government's proposing.
If you're just having kids to not go into work, sorry, microphone keeps getting away from me. Like it just fucking pisses me off. Like literally, I've worked pretty much since I could.
Grimes, how old are you?
23. I don't care. And I pay tax, and there's people that I know who have never had a fucking job, and they literally just sponge it.
Yeah, but then they need to be dealt with separately. That's the thing. Yeah, but what I'm saying is, what the government's proposing,
then help them.
Yeah, but that's not what the government's proposing. The government's saying that there's an upper limit. No matter what, you're only allowed this amount of money, no matter what. So it doesn't matter if you got 2 kids, 3 kids.
23 grand. What they're allowed is fucking, that's enough to live off.
Or with 3 kids?
Not with 3 kids.
Okay,
Then
so we're
don't
clear
have
on
3
that.
kids.
Charlotte.
There's levels.
Hold on, Charlotte. What's your take on it? You're a student, I believe.
It's hard to know what to think because there's so many different like ways that you can think about it. Like someone who has children and a family, you have a family primarily to look after that family, and like if you can't look after that family, you shouldn't have shouldn't have started it in the first place. That's what I believe. If you're ready to have a family, you earn enough money, great, have a family, pay for yourself. But if you have a family and can't pay for it, you can't have a family and live on the streets. So,
but what if circumstances changes? Let's say you get married, you have 2 kids, and the husband dies or goes somewhere else or leaves the family. Then surely then the government should support you as much as it can, should it not?
It should, yeah, but definitely, yeah, I agree. It should.
Just feel free to.
Shouldn't it really be benefits there for the people that are too mentally ill to be able to work, or too physically ill to be able to work, really, or too old and can't and never saved up properly, and whatever the other reason is there? Because I've kind of got maybe it's a bit of an old view that if you are physically and mentally able to do a type of job, then you should probably go and do that type of job,
but then
and not rely on the state. Pardon me, say that again.
If you've got like kids who they need care for the first few years, then you can kind of have that for the beginning, and then once they're old enough,
it depends what you mean by care. What do you mean by care?
A newborn needs its mum.
No, completely. Yeah, well, that's fair. Completely.
Sonny.
I for about a year and a half went out with someone who had a kid and has been receiving benefits the whole time she's had the kid. Her mum is the other side of the argument, where she's basically been having a kid every 2 years. She's had 5 now. She's just stopped because she's getting to the point where the last one that she had isn't very well, because obviously she's over 40. It's time to probably stop having kids, but she's doing it, and she has got a job just now, just as this last kid's become old enough. She's never worked up till this point. And I was at their house once and I raised the point that you said about, like, if you can't have kids, or if you can't afford to have the next one, just stop. Like, don't do it.
Thank you.
And one of the aunties, one of the friends who was there, she said, how would I deal with it if it was personally me? I said there would be a minimum level of education and income before you could have kids. Like, just a very basic thing. And she's right, who gets to decide that? Who gets to do this? Because you have a lot of people, especially some of the most influential people throughout the whole of history. Like, I know this isn't a good example of someone who's a good example, but in terms of influence and power, and if you think about someone who was as powerful as someone like, I don't know, Hitler, who did a lot, and if he'd have done it in a good way, probably would have had a very good effect. But someone that powerful, he came from a very poor family. He didn't have a really rich background, and there's a lot of people who have been equally powerful in a positive way, who have come from awful situations with awful families. You can't just say, because the situation is going to be sucky, you can't have kids, because you don't necessarily have the if you're saying you're sterilizing somebody, you're removing their ability to have children.
Okay, I got to completely disagree with the whole Hitler reference there. Totally, it's like the worst person you could ever bring up in an argument about benefits and claiming from the state. The thing is, what you're really talking about is something called desirable difficulty, for people to be able to rise above their current situation to make the world better around them. That's what desirable difficulty is about, and what a lot of people that have really great upbringings and childhoods and all the money in the world, what they lack is that gritty, street-wise understanding of the world, and they're in this kind of cushy little bubble. So what you're talking about is more desirable difficulty for the individual, not necessarily whether or not somebody should claim benefit or not. If it is just a single mother and a kid, then absolutely. But then if they have one kid after the other, in fact, there's a part of me saying, well, if money didn't exist, then wouldn't this happen anyway, and we would survive no matter what? And so you should be allowed allowed to have procreate as much as you want, because why are we on this earth? But to
have as many
procreate.
as you want, but
and also, can I
should be a level for where that gets paid for. Like, you can't have the government pay for one person and their 16 kids just because she wants the money for the
when it gets to the point where people are doing it anyway, and these kids are losing out because there's an upper limit. Because it's not the kids' fault that they were born or made, but they're the only ones who are going to get punished for it.
And also, can I point out,
but if they realised they weren't going to have the money, would they have the kids in the first?
That's it's irrelevant, because it's going to happen anyway. They're going to do it.
There are some people literally, they would have the kids just to be able to get the benefit, to be able to not work.
Yeah, but we shouldn't judge all of them like that, is what I'm trying to say.
That's what I'm saying. If you deserve to have the benefit, if you've got a kid and situation dictates that you need help, then help them. But if you're having a kid just to get help,
let me throw something in there quickly. Grimes, let me throw something in there quickly, all right?
Because if they knew they weren't going to get the help, they might not have the kid in the first place.
Hey, Mr. Excitable. God, it took me half an hour to get him to talk at the microphone, and now he's shouting at it. Let me just say this, yeah? We sit here and we go, blah, blah, the right, deserving, blah, blah, blah. In a lot of other European countries, they pay women to have kids, right? The UK is the only country that seems to have a big problem with people having kids.
The UK also has the lowest level of education in almost the entirety of Western Europe.
Right.
That's why we have a problem with people having kids.
Yeah, but we need more kids. If you look at the maths of it, you always need people having kids.
Yeah.
That's how it gets the economy going, because people have kids, kids grow up, they learn stuff, they spend money, they get educated. They're your rock bed of any nation, and you can't do anything without people.
But weirdly, when you had Gordon Brown in power, as soon as the kid popped out, you got 200 quid in your pocket immediately.
The point isn't over whether women are going to have kids, because women are going to have kids now, whether or not they're getting benefits or not. The question is, how do we make sure these kids don't fall into poverty, first of all, and secondly, it has to be.
You can't have one or the other. You can't have an upper limit on how many kids someone can have and get money, and stop kids falling into poverty.
Right,
you can't do both, because people are going to have those kids anyway. Because even if, let's say you say, okay, if you have more than one,
it's their own fault if they can't afford.
Yeah, but that's my point, though. So you're saying you're okay with kids being punished, because that's what you're doing, right? You're punishing the kids, because that's not the parents don't care. The parents are going to take the money. No, but they don't. That's the thing. You have
the kid if they can't afford it.
But they don't know they can't afford it.
But they don't care either, because they're not giving the money to their kids. They're not. These aren't sensible human beings.
If they were never going to have the money, would they have that kid in the first place?
Right.
I think that an aptitude test should be put in place. You've got to prove that you can. Yeah, nothing too severe, but at least just to show that you're not just having it for your own selfish reasons.
Yeah, but then you're saying you'd rather the government interfere in the sex lives of Britons, and if you'd have them.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? It's like, what are we?
You weren't here earlier when I brought it up, but so I said the exact same thing to someone a couple of years ago. I said, why isn't there just like a basic means test? Like, if you've ever physically assaulted a bunch of people and put them all in hospital, maybe you shouldn't have kids. But that kind of thing. But first of all, there's a couple of things that would have to happen for that to work. First of all, you'd have to have a way to sterilize the entire human race in the country, because people are going to have kids whether you tell them they can or not. They're going to do it, right? It's going to happen.
Exactly.
You can't just say you don't have kids now. You're not allowed to. They're going to. Of course, they're going to. You can't stop me. Yeah. You can't physically, unless you're going to be China and force people to have abortions, which I don't think we're going to do. So you can't just implement it without at the level we are now tech-wise. Also, if you can sterilize everyone, let's say we had that and we could stop everyone was very well educated on safe sex and no one would make a mistake, right? Let's then say, what would happen in terms of STDs and things like that? You'd have to cure all of those as well, otherwise everyone's just going to get very ill and die. So you kind of have to have two very high-tech solutions in place already before you can just have a minimum level of testing, because it's just going to get ignored unless you're willing to forcibly abort children. Then you don't have
to just raise the minimum wage to more than what you get on benefits, and then people actually go to work to get some more money.
That's a good point. That's actually a good point.
Because benefits 23 grand a year, minimum wage is about 13 grand a year.
How many times am I going to tell you to speak to you?
You can hear it. Fucking microphone, guys. Speak louder that time.
Do you want to put this on and listen to your voice? You've got a beautiful voice. You need to get closer.
Minimum wage is what, £6 something an hour, and that goes for a 40-hour week, 5 days a week.
Living wage.
Like you'll probably be on 13 to 14 grand a year.
Okay.
Benefits is what? They're putting a higher cap of 23 grand a year.
Yeah.
I would kill to be on 23 grand a year.
Look, let me just jump in there quickly. Let me say
you don't need to kill, just have some kids.
Exactly, that's how people think.
All I'm saying is I don't think there's anything wrong with women having kids, because as with any country, like I said, you need people pumping out kids. They've got a massive problem in Japan at the moment where they ain't having no kids. They ain't even having sex at last count, right? They're paying people in Northern Europe to have kids. I think the issue isn't people having kids, it's about money, and that's what's annoying people, that people are getting money that they're not necessarily going to work for. But I think being a mother is a job in itself.
Would you not question, not to invalidate your point, but would you not question the relevance of what's going on in Japan and northern Finland, Europe and those types of places compared to England? Because England, even though it is part of Europe, is very different from the majority of European countries I have visited. Nearly part, kind of almost Europe-ish. I don't think, after going to Japan, it is kind of scary to see how extensive Galapagos syndrome spreads there. It's just so different.
What's that?
Galapagos syndrome is the idea of a nation that was forcibly separated from basically the rest of the world and has therefore developed in basically the opposite direction to the rest of the world. Even the places they're close to are very different from Japan. So it's hard with Japan because they have a very low birth rate because their work ethic is so ridiculous. So they're not really having an economic issue because everyone works really hard and no one really benefits. No, but they
do have an up and coming problem because their population is aging. They don't have young people are not having kids there, which is causing a problem long term. Because again, if
Japan's never been one for observing long term problems, by the way, never ever.
In any country, if you've got lots of old people, somebody's got to be paying those pensions, and that's why you need kids in the system. You always have.
They also, since they're so close to China, have a huge immigrant workforce, and Chinese people do have kids, lots of kids now.
And ladies and gents, can I just say to the mothers of the world, I appreciate you. The rest of these people may not.
I appreciate. It's not even. It's not even about mothers, though, is it? Really, it's just down to that. It's down to that fundamental. If you don't have the capacity to be able to pay for your child in the system that we live in, then don't have it.
I disagree. I don't think the system's ever been set up that way. I think it's always been the case. If you wanted to be a mother in this country, ever since World War II,
I'm not saying it has in the past. I'm not saying in the past. I'm saying now. You put a cap on that, and people that don't have the capacity, but maybe don't believe in abortion, don't believe in safe sex, don't believe in the things that will limit the amount of children they're going to have. Then it's the state turning around and saying, okay, we're saying to you, we're going to limit your ability to feed and clothe and shelter yourselves with those newborn children.
Which is exactly the point I'm disagreeing with. I think the state, by doing what it's doing, is one, making a broadside against women, and two, it's creating that will create a class issue long term, especially for the kids who are growing up in those families.
What you mean? There isn't one now?
But it's not one that people notice. Everybody in this country.
Okay. I'm gonna. You're not saying we're not one of the most classist societies on the planet.
Can I explain my statement? All right. We voted in a Tory government. All right.
Twice.
Yeah, twice. All right. We've got a Tory government which, before the election, said it was going to cut A, B, C, D. Most of their new rules affect women more than any other group. All right. And they were voted into power. Now, if we've run a system where we've always said, mothers, if you want to be a mother, because you can't work, because you have to look after your kids most of the time, we're going to give you benefits. So we've now got a point in this country that if you have a child, even if you're in a couple, you almost certainly have to go out and work to pay somebody else to look after your kids, right? When they're saying if you're a mother, you're going to get even less support, because Daily Mail readers, who are a minority within a minority, don't like seeing one old woman buy a freaking horse with her benefits. Now, that may seem like a good idea, but I think that's almost going back backwards in a way. That's literally saying that if you take benefits, there's something wrong with you. Now, I'm not saying everybody should take benefits. I think benefits need to come down, but there's better ways of doing it than
benefits don't need to come down. Like the benefit system, the same as almost every political system and economic system, they work great until you introduce people to them. Human beings don't work great with very limited systems.
So I hate to take us back to the days of Hitler.
Why? This isn't a Daily Mail. We don't need to mention Hitler all the time.
Okay, the only reason why I said that is because what was created there was the ability for the state to provide people that weren't working with jobs. And the state at the moment doesn't necessarily have that ability to provide jobs. It just passes the odd legislation, might make it easier for entrepreneurs to set up companies. And actually, that's going to take quite a bit of time for anybody to really be employed. But what that kind of system did, and maybe others do that I'm just not aware of, is put the people to work and pay them. It's simple as that. Work on the roads, work on the infrastructure, work on cleaning the buildings. I don't care what it is, but then start to pay them and use that instead of the benefits. They say, okay, you're currently not working in a job that you want to. Not currently working in a job, but we'll give you enough time. If they said we'll give you enough time to find the job you want, but you have to do a minimum amount of minimum service, and you'll also get paid the living wage or whatever wage because you're working for the state.
They somewhat had a system not like that. They weren't giving people jobs. But when I was unemployed, I have never been unemployed for more than 3 months, I think. But when I was unemployed and under 21, there was a huge push to get you to do things that would give you skills. They would never say to you, just do this thing, do it forever, that's your thing. That's it, your job. Yeah. There was quite a lot of emphasis on trying to get people back into the system. The problem is, have you been on Job Seekers out of interest? Has everyone here probably at one point been on Job Seekers? No.
The time I needed it, I was too young to get it.
Too young to get it, right? Okay, well, fair enough. But so when I was very briefly,
years old and unemployed,
if you go into a job seeker's office, which I'm sure you have, you will see people who aren't. The systems are there for you to acquire skills through the state. The systems are there for you to acquire jobs through the state. People tell me, a lot of my friends at the time, my peers, there's no jobs, I can't find any. I've never been unemployed for longer than 3 months, and I wasn't a highly skilled worker. I was 18 and had never had a job before, and I got one in 3 months because I was actually trying to. The only time I was on job seekers and I didn't get one is when I was faking it and not trying to get a job because I just got fired and I was massively damaged by it. I didn't want to work anymore. So I just wrote down names on a piece of paper that were random shops in my area, handed it in. You can't just say if we provide this, scummy people or people who don't care about progressing themselves will take it.
Sonny, where was that in London?
Oh, that was I was living in Wimbledon at the time.
Okay, so London's slightly different in that sense.
So I'm absolutely with you on the fact that if you're determined to get a job, you can get a job as long as you don't have a standard of type of job that you think you're able or allowed to get. Now, what a lot of people the in that kind of way of I'm just gonna. I think maybe a lot of depressed people who are on job seekers and can't get the job that they think they deserve to get is because they won't lower their standards and build themselves back up again, and nobody at that standard will employ them in the first place. So you've got that demographic as well to think about.
And that's why there's a lot of Eastern European work, because they don't have that snobbishness.
Well, maybe I don't understand that system as well as the UK one, but the reason why I went on job seekers was so I could better myself and find a job that would fit and work my way up to it. And yeah, all those things were in place. I had my CV sorted. I had some little bits and pieces of training. I retrained as a carer and worked as a carer in the community part time whilst I still have job seekers coming in. Those things are in place, but what's not in place is the real life skills, and they are life skills, to understand how you go out and get something, how you understand your own mind to be able to manipulate the world around you to get what you need to do. And that has to happen younger, and that will bring people off benefits in the future anyway. And so and that's not in the schools, and so that's a fundamental failing of our education system in the first place.
5 seconds before I was about to say. money.
Of course I did.
No, I agree. Yeah, no, you're right. If you want to change the whole system, the system isn't to do a numbers game. You're not going to say, okay, we'll drop it to X amount of money, and that will stop people taking benefits. That's a Tory way of fixing things, and that's the absolute problem. You can't just say, you get less money now, so don't do it. People will still do it. The only people who lose out are the kids who don't have a choice.
Well, if you're young now, I don't think you can. If you're 16, if you don't go into higher education, I don't think you get job seekers now.
But that's the thing. Forcing someone into higher education isn't what we mean. You can't just take.
I want to go to college. I want to go into work, and then when I wanted to go into work was the height of the.
Okay, I'm going to test.
So I couldn't
bad timing.
I'm going to test something on you. Okay, getting a job is more about self-worth and self-belief than it is necessarily the ability to get one. And so, where do you currently sit, Grimesy, on your scale of like self-worth? I mean, out of 1 to 10, would you say?
6,
which isn't that good, and it's a real shame because you're probably more skilled than you think you are, which means you have more worth than you think you than your mind is currently telling yourself, and you're throwing in a touch of humility.
You'd actually probably be surprised with how many skills you have compared to a lot of people. When you go to a job centre and you see the type of people that exist in this country, it's not like they left high school early. They can't. They actually have no idea how to present themselves for work. You ask them to turn up for a job interview, and they turn up in full tracksuit that's all pink. Like, they have no idea of what it takes to be employed.
Go
for the pink tracksuit, but not at a job interview, maybe.
So let me. You're at uni at the moment.
Yes.
And Charlotte, you're at uni as well. You're in your first year. Sonny, where are you at the moment?
Me, just about to go into my third.
Okay. Yeah. You guys, you're going to finish uni eventually, right? You're going to the big bad world.
I've already been in the big bad world. I skipped uni for 4 years and worked before I went.
Are you feeling positive about what happens afterwards? Will you get the job that you want to get?
I'm feeling positive. Like, even if it's not the job that I want at the minute, like, as long as I get by until obviously things get more serious, and obviously you want to stay in the same place, settle down and stuff like that. As long as you get by, afford somewhere to live, afford somewhere to shower and sleep, like.
What type of shower would you actually like?
Shower.
No, it's
one of those clean showers.
Would you like a big kind of walk-in shower, or would you like a little box cubicle
shower?
Really, no.
Like I mean, as long as I've got somewhere to live and stay, and all I want to do. Personally, it's all down to the individual. Like, I personally just want to go explore the world, and like, I don't care if I sleep in a hut for 2 weeks. It's experience.
That's a great short-term plan.
Exactly.
Like, obviously, how old are you?
19.
19. Yeah, cool. I'm the same now, by the way. I'm older than you, and I still want to do the same thing. Right?
Exactly.
I don't want to stay like me and Curtis work in the same place. I don't want to be there for ages. I could work where Curtis works and live all right in London.
Yeah.
Not great. Yeah, you could.
Like,
two people work like Carl and Clara do it.
No comment.
At the minute, like, with my student loan, I'm doing all right. Like, I'm not on a massive student loan, but with the job I've got, I guess that's a hard thing. Not everyone I know is going to get a job. Like, obviously with my uni, I haven't got halls and I can't afford to pay rent on my own. So obviously the help of student loan is great, but this time I haven't got a student loan.
If you didn't have a student loan,
if I didn't have a student loan, I would be fucked, basically.
Sonny,
and it's not that big of a student loan either, so it's not as easy as everyone thinks it is.
This is coming to my next point. Did you take a student loan out, or did you just?
Yep, I got given the maximum amount you can get.
Oh well, that's great.
No, again,
I didn't. I got the minimum.
No, but this again bites into my whole point with this kind of benefits and kind of money. Okay, you two are studying. You're obviously going to go into your jobs. Now, I know they say people should pay it back, but surely education, at the very least, is an investment in young people that the state should make.
But it's not seen that way. It's seen as an expense that they shouldn't have to make because we're taking stuff that we're apparently never going to give back. But
you are, because if they invest in you, instead of paying that,
that's why they start charging.
Instead of paying that student loan off, you could set your own company up. You could set your own business up.
I mean, I don't even know how many countries in Europe.
Education should be free.
I don't even know how many countries in Europe. Like the people who I've met from, I'm not sure if Norway does it in Sweden, but they come here and they're like, you pay for your education? You serious? Free. Like almost everywhere else but here that has a very high level of education, except for like the Asian countries. The Asian countries have very high student fees, but they also have a ridiculously high level of education, and they expect everyone has to do it. You don't.
And
really
a ridiculously high level of poverty, apart from Japan, possibly.
It depends where you look. China's an exception to every rule of every economic law of the planet because of its size and its population's density and where it's focused.
But poverty's a big problem out there as well.
In China, that's what I mean, though, because when you look at the scale of poverty and you consider most of people, the majority of China is just nothingness. It's just farms for hundreds and hundreds of miles. You could go to a place where there's not a house for 7 miles in every direction. They've never seen someone in a suit. Like, they don't understand. It's not poverty as we see it, like monetary poverty. It's living poverty. So it's a separate thing. What? Oh, lifestyle poverty. Yeah, exactly. It's more like they are poor, but where they are, it's not. Everyone is poor for hundreds of miles around. So retrospectively, it's not poverty. It's really weird.
Context. Jay, if you've got enough to live and you've got enough to feed your family, then you're as rich as you feel.
Yeah,
well,
okay.
I don't know. I still go along the lines of.
There's a lot of people.
If that's your only context,
a lot of money and a lot of material things. They just need a place to sleep.
I think that's a very overhead type of thing to say. No disrespect to you. A lot of people do it. I did it. But if you're living in a shithole, it doesn't matter if it's a shithole here or there. It doesn't matter if you've got your family or your friends. You're still living in poverty. You're still struggling day to day. A farmer has to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
If you live in a mud hut in the middle of London, then you're in fucking poverty.
You need context as well. That's why China's so strange.
You're in the middle of rainforest and you've got everything you need to live, and you don't want.
Yeah, but your kids are probably going to die before they reach a certain age.
But they don't. You're talking about populations of billions of people, where that is all that they know. Yeah. So it's not this terrible, horrible ordeal because everyone does it.
If your children die before a certain age, it's horrible. Whatever country you're in.
But I mean, not with children death. But I mean, in terms of poverty,
if you break your leg and there's not a doctor
struggling.
Let me finish my point. If you break your leg in somewhere and there's no doctor for 50 miles and you can't afford that doctor, your life then becomes bad. I'm not saying if your life's very basic and you don't have major problems, then yes, if you live somewhere where it's a farm in the middle of China, it's not bad. But then if bad things happen to you, whereas here, if I break my leg, I go straight down the A&E and they sort me out.
But there's places in America, some of the most affluent cities in the world,
where that happens as well.
That happens to people, and they're not poor. They're just not able to afford their healthcare. Yeah. Well, that's not necessarily an aspect of poverty.
But a lot of people, I'm not saying it's poverty, it's just when people, it's that ridiculous whole idea about the happy peasant. That doesn't ring true to me, is what I'm saying. When we talk about
I'm not saying that it's like a good situation. What I'm saying is you can't attribute our generic view of poverty to a situation like that as easily. Like, you can't compare someone who grows up here in a family of 6 where they've got a £20,000 a year cap on how much mum's allowed to make because she bred a lot of kids. You can't compare that to that kind of poverty, because those are very different perspectives and very different lifestyles.
But I'm just saying, when people always say that the concept of that, even though it's a different type of poverty, that these people are living, just because they don't know any different, that they're happy. I beg to differ on that.
I'm not saying that they're happy. I'm saying that it's incomparable.
Sonny, this is disorderly conduct. I'm not making it personal. I love you, buddy. I love every word that comes out of your mouth. And you introduced the new word to us today. What was it, that thing you described?
What I just said now?
No, before, when you mentioned that thing. What was it?
That thing that's getting
I can't remember. I can't remember what you said earlier.
What was the context around it? What was I talking about?
Sonny, you're hurting me. I can't.
Basically, what you're talking about is the contextualization of which country you have poverty in, and you can't really compare the difference between London poverty and Chinese poverty. It's completely different.
Or Japanese poverty.
The whole system that is set up around it is so completely and vastly different that there's no way you can even consider what those differences would be if you gave one or other the same sort of thing. You just can't do it. That's what I'm saying, and so you have to take a very, very relative perspective of it all.
In terms of English poverty, and in terms of the actual question about capping benefits, no, it won't help. Yes, people will still have lots of kids. What else? It won't adjust the way people think about benefits. People won't think, oh, it's only 20 grand, so let's not whine about it anymore. There is a huge problem of entitlement in this country, not just from people who claim benefits, from people who do everything, who feel like they're entitled to a bunch of stuff that they're really not.
I got to disagree. I don't think it's entitlement. I think it's education. I think it comes earlier. Education of the parents and what they're feeding into the minds of the kids in the first place, and then the areas that are being built up around it. I mean, those areas don't need to exist and can be kind of brushed aside, put them in better areas. Are you saying that those people that maybe have had their houses rebuilt into something that looks nicer, it's a nicer area, begins better, are going to go back to that relative poverty that they decide to keep themselves in? And my argument is most people don't have to keep themselves in that level of poverty or in that state, and they just don't have enough self-worth to be able to take themselves out of that. Every time they get caught up in the he said, she said, the whole celebrity culture, and let's have 500 channels that we're not going to use, and they just get bamboozled into too much stuff and thinking the wrong way, and they never focus on what the right thing to focus on would be, to increase their lifestyle and make the world better around them.
The way people view their goals is very different. Is that what you mean?
It's exactly that.
Skewed by one, the media that they're presented, two, a lack of education on what they're actually able to do as a human being, and three, probably their own personal means that they're not allowing themselves to grow.
I'd go even simpler than that, gentlemen. I'm going to throw something in there for you. I think it's as simple as the difference between happiness and pleasure. Okay. Pleasure being a very short-term thing. Okay, it's a temporary thing, but it makes you feel good, right? It's like people who become addicted to drugs. Sometimes you get that high and you keep searching for that high. Whereas happiness is when you're comfortable, when you've reached your goals, when you've got the things that you need. And
see, this is where I'm going to jump in and completely disagree with you, because there is no such thing as happiness. That's the problem. There is no such thing as happiness. Happiness is so fleeting. Happiness
is pleasure.
Happiness is in the moment.
Pleasure's fleeting.
These are huge statements. So you've gone from pleasure is very short term.
Yeah. What is pleasure? Pleasure is when you feel temporarily good about something. It's when you feel when you've eaten something that you've enjoyed, when you've seen a movie that you've liked, when you've seen a program that you've liked. Whereas happiness is a much more of a permanent thing. It's like you've done what you wanted to do.
No. There's happiness in the doing. If you're saying happiness is the done in you've achieved something that you wanted to do, the problem there is the happiness wanes and disappears the moment after you've completed.
You don't go, oh my god, I've finally written my thesis at 50 years old.
I'm at Nirvana.
My doctorate. Yeah. I've finally done my big life thing.
Yes.
I am now happy forever. That's not what happens.
That doesn't work.
Happiness will come and go, but pleasure literally is only there.
I think you're confusing the two, and you're saying they're both actually what you're calling pleasure. No, honestly, I do, because there is no such thing as happiness. Happiness is, if there is such a concept, is something that is ongoing because you are striving towards something. You're in that moment.
Yeah, but that's what happiness is. It's when you're doing things that are long term that make you feel good, and they're there.
But those things aren't necessarily positive.
I think they are if you do them the right way.
My friend of mine used to work in a betting shop. Those guys in there were really happy while they were in there, spending all of their money away.
No, it's not. They're happy.
That's them doing their goal for the day.
Yeah, they're happy while they're winning.
Win lots of money,
when they're losing, it's a different gig, though, isn't it?
No, but they do it to lose. They do it
to different.
They do it to get a hit.
Yeah. It's an adrenaline dump from losing and winning. From that moment of
it's from winning. It's from winning every time.
Okay, let me put it this way. Yeah? Do you need to own a TV to be happy?
Of course not.
But you still buy a TV, right?
I don't have one, but yes.
But you got a computer screen. You watch videos on it. DVDs, right? You don't need those things. They're not. They're temporary things. They're like you'll buy a TV. You'll have one. Then you'll buy. You don't need a 52-inch TV, but some people will buy a 52-inch TV, and that'll bring them like that high. That's their moment. But let's say when you bought your first car, right? That high you got from buying your first car, you haven't got a car yet.
No.
But James, you bought a car.
Sure.
That was a fun time.
No matter how many cars you then own after that, you're never going to feel the same way you did when you got your first car.
Unless you suddenly have the means to buy like a Bugatti.
No, but you're never, even if you bought,
no, that's true.
Even if you bought a Veyron, you're never going to feel the same way, right?
No, okay.
Right.
Where are you going with this?
No, but I'm saying that is where the big difference is between people. And when you talk about getting people out of poverty, if you look at a lot of the time when people are in poverty, they sometimes fall into the same patterns. You look at people who are in addiction, they fall into the same patterns of trying to get that temporary high, that temporary moment of pleasure,
that instant gratification, rather than
the long-term thing. And that's from what I've seen where the real problem is. Not cutting people's benefits. It's about getting them out.
The simpler term of that would be just effort, because what they're doing, you can't have lots of little happies leading to a big happy. A lot of the time it's lots of really crappy stuff.
I don't think it's
like
effort.
I think lots of little happies do lead to the large happy, because the little happies are either building that foundation or should theoretically be. What I think Curtis is talking about is the huge happies that you can have every now and again, which I think you're also terming as pleasure, which is the heroin hit. Like, okay, the world is so great and amazing right now, and then maybe 10 minutes later it's gone,
right?
And chasing that. So I think there has to be a foundational point to all of these things. Is your mind set up in the right way? Are your finances set up in the right way? It's spiritually, it's
which you can't really know how to do unless someone explicitly tells you to.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
which
education.
Goes back to your point.
Well, but again, education in a bit, and it's all about being effective. You said effort. I don't think effort's the right word. I think it's people not just putting in the effort, but knowing how to make the most of that. Because you can have somebody who puts a huge amount of effort into what they're doing,
into something pointless,
and still fail.
A waste of time.
Yeah, total waste. Yeah.
They've put all their effort, they've put their money, their time, their passion into it, but nobody told them, right, like a lot of small businesses that fail. Yep, you've worked all the hours that God gave you, but where are your account books? Where's that side of things? And that is what I think holds a lot of people back, not actually knowing
it's actually
what they're doing
tangible
is right.
Education at the point of delivery, and delivered also in a way that will be absorbed by the individual and infusing the individual. I think we've got a problem not only with what is being educated, but how it's being educated in the first place, and the people that are doing the educating. And it's so fundamental, but the problem is there are too many of us to be able to manage that. They're getting into different people's heads. Only a few of the smarter or maybe more open individuals at the moment of delivery are able to take that on board at that time. Yes, okay, don't get me wrong, that you do have individuals that rise above their challenges, but those are quite rare.
Yeah, there was a lecturer who did a very, very long speech on the state of education, specifically in Western states and Western countries, and how it's based majoritively on the Industrial Revolution. It's based on batches of people going through the same process, and then at the end you do quality control, and everyone has to meet standards. And we say things to kids, and it's about perspective of how you address information. So if you say to kids something as simple as don't cheat, like, don't cheat on a test, why would you tell a kid not to take answers from someone who knows the answer? Why would you not want them to absorb that information? Because you've fed them a lot of information. Maybe they're not good at that one thing. Maybe it's okay not to know stuff sometimes, you know what I mean? And they're presented with a lot of rules that go counter to how people actually learn and people experience the world. You don't learn by cutting out everyone else while you're learning. It's not how you do stuff. You don't learn by, say, in a classroom, sitting there silently, not discussing the subject matter, except when you're specifically told you're allowed. That's ridiculous. Of course, kids will then, the ones who get it will be in on it, and that's not very many, and the ones who don't will see it as a hassle, as a chore, a thing that they have to do. You can't just present...
I half agree with you with that thought, but I think it comes down to the individual personality that is being taught in the first place. Every individual will learn things in a different way. One person will learn the same thing by watching a YouTube video, and another person will have to have someone that they respect standing there and telling them that information. And another person is able to just sit there, read it, and in it goes. And it's the way that an individual will be able to absorb information in the first place, and that's never honed into. How will this individual actually be able to learn that?
It never comes down.
Never comes down to that.
Bring it back to the original point.
Well, no, that's part of the original point, because if you're putting putting a cap on something like a benefit system, if you're saying, oh, you can't do X thing or you can't have that many kids, the inherent issue with the reason you're even having to make that change is because you have a system that is losing you lots of money with people who necessarily don't deserve it or are purposefully gaming it to make more money, and the only people who lose from that are the kids that they have and the people who pay that money,
and the people being extremely honest and following the rules,
and the people who don't cheat. It's the same system you have with every significantly popular sport where you're not allowed to do performance enhancing drugs, right? But only one guy has to do it and get away with it and win a medal, and then he's done it, right? He's got away with it, and the gains are so huge and the losses aren't particularly high in most sports. It's the same thing
Armstrong.
with...
It depends where you fall from. It's like...
I'm pretty sure he still lives fairly comfortably.
He lives incredibly comfortably.
Yeah, I don't think he... That's the point, though. Same with like the big sport that I'm interested in at the moment is MMA. And they've just now started implementing real drug testing. But they're still going to do it. Like, they caught some of the hugest names.
Well, did you see the documentary last week on Panorama?
No.
They basically went round and they spoke to the guy who trained... they investigated the guy who trained Mo Farah and found out that he was allegedly providing lots of people with drugs. And now, drugs testing so poor that you can get around it easily, and they'll never know you're doing it.
There's structures that test things, and there's ways to test every single drug. The problem is timing, and if you know a drugs test is coming, you can pass it 100% of the time. Which is probably the same way as if you know a house inspection for your benefits are coming, you can pass it 100% of the time.
But the
you can't inspect people. You can't.
But the doping's getting so good now; it's hard to even do that now, and that's the scary.
Which is why the penalties for getting caught are going up as well, like 2-year suspensions, 3-year suspensions.
Should be
just for getting
ban.
caught once.
Life ban. If you're cheating at a sport, especially at Olympic level, and
it depends what the sport is.
Just make a new sport.
It depends what the sport is, and it depends on the
non-drug sport.
No, because then people would just die.
If you had like a steroid Olympics, it would be amazing. It'd be like
they did that. It was called Pride, and a lot of people very nearly died. It was in Japan, and they didn't really drugs test anyone, and all the guys were massive. I mean, if you're doing something like boxing and you take performance enhancing drugs, at that point you've endangered another person's life because you're taking something that's bulked yourself up past your actual physical limits. But that's not what we're talking about at all. I mean, if you're willing to cheat something and don't have a point from it. Nope. I was going to say, if you're willing to cheat a system and the gains are high enough for you to risk it, like if you're going to cheat a benefit system, let's say if you got caught committing benefit frauds, you were never allowed to have any money from the state again. People would still do it. People would still find a way around it. The smartest people in the world are cheaters. All of them. Every single one. The smartest human beings, the most successful human beings. No one does everything
disagree. I have to disagree. No way. No.
So who do you think?
No.
Who do you think is
incredibly I'm not letting you get away with that one.
Who's very successful right now?
Yeah.
Very successful businessman, politician, anything. Who's done everything straight edge throughout the entirety of their career.
Now, are we talking as in financial manipulation, or are we talking physical?
Any type of something that's below the board, considerably unfair.
Well, I thought we're just sticking to a sport, yeah?
Oh, in sport?
No, business.
Well, no, I mean anyone who's successful in general, yeah. Sport's a bit different. I don't think they're all necessarily cheaters in terms of like performance-enhancing drugs. They might be cheaters in terms of the way that they presented themselves at a hearing to get into a better team. They might be cheaters in the way that they bought a team or bought a specific player using their money advantage from a different business.
Everybody bought some judges
at the top.
They're really expensive.
Doesn't deserve to be there because they were cheat.
I didn't say didn't deserve. I'm not saying it's undeserving. I'm saying it's inherent in human beings.
It's a bit more meta that at some point people cheat.
Yeah, and that the people who cheat, if they are successful, that people will be intelligent enough to cheat. And it only takes one person to find that one hole, then a lot of other people will do it. Like the people.
I'm not denying that, but I'm not saying that. I think there's a sweeping statement there that every person that has had any sort of success in their lives has done it.
Extreme success.
Has been a cheat.
Gents, to wrap it up, I think that was I love you two guys, man. Whack lyrical.
It's fun.
They're using big words again. No, it's beautiful, and I do appreciate that. But I'm going to wrap that subject up, and I think I think we'll hit up one short one quickly because we've gone good on that one, gents.
It's a dumb idea. The benefits thing is a dumb idea.
I agree with you. I think it's a dumb idea, and I think it broadsides women more than anybody else. And I think it's unfortunate.
And kids. It broadsides kids.
I think it's unfortunate fortunate that we're taking that approach with benefits now. I'm quite happy for women who have kids to receive money out of my taxes, much more than the royal family to receive money out of my taxes, and Trident and all the rest of it. I think if women want to have kids, they should be bloody well allowed to, and have as many as you want. You can put systems in there to check or whatever.
See, the bit that really gets me is if that thought is in a woman's head, is that if I have another kid, I will get more money. Can they hold that thought and be happy with it for the full 9 months of their full term?
Oh yeah. You're dealing with people with questionable moral integrity. They don't.
But that's a long time. That's a long time. And you see that little life. Wait until you're a father.
No, there's a point of no return too. I think there's a point where they can't go back and they're like, well, I've done it now.
I think we as a society need to get a bit more women having kids friendly, and if people want to change it so women who are abusing the system don't, that's fine. But I think doing what they've done just reeks of a dislike of women who have children, and I think that's
none of the solutions that work at the end point will ever change things. Like, you could punish everyone who claims benefits fraudulently with prison. You could do a Saudi Arabia and cut off people's hands when they cheat. It won't change anything. You need to change.
I think it would actually lessen the amount of people that are cheating if you're chopping off their hands.
You'd have a massive increase in disability benefit.
That's terrible. You're a bad person, Curtis.
Anyway, no, I can't help it. Right, so we'll come to the end of the show, but I figured we'd throw in a quick one there. If I say the phrase Caitlyn Jenner, does it throw anything to you guys?
I know nothing about this.
All right, let's get a picture for you.
Great.
Bear with me 2 seconds. So Caitlyn
it's the most
Jenner,
non-story.
Let's
we really have to sully your show with this.
What is it? What is it? Someone tell me.
Very successful.
Some bird who's famous for sucking off a rapper or a basketball player.
Okay.
Her stepdad is now stepmom.
He's also an Olympic athlete, which is why he's important. He's not important because his daughter did anything.
I think that's a bit harsh.
No one really knows who he is.
Well, many people know who he is, just not us, because
he was a swimmer, wasn't he?
Yeah,
swimming. He was a
swimming
massive
community.
Swimmer. Yeah, one of quite a few.
Most people don't.
And he's had a gender swap.
Gender change.
So went from Bruce to Caitlyn.
Why is this
non-story?
Why is this in the news?
Front of the Vanity Fair, baby. Front of Vanity Fair.
Because his stepdaughter.
Good for him. Good for her.
Well, the reason it was
that's why it's in the news is because of Kim Kardashian.
Hey, stop! Can we not criticise Kim Kardashian for giving good head? I'm not having this.
That was a good head. I saw the movie.
I'm not having it several times. I'm not having this. Joey, this criticism of Kim Kardashian. She's a.
Kim Kardashian is completely irrelevant to this story and its influences at the moment. It's actually
if
quite
Kim
sad.
Kardashian didn't exist, would this story be on Vanity Fair?
Yes.
Yeah, of course. Really, you have an Olympic athlete, a huge
non-athlete now.
A huge symbol of male physical
When
power.
was he an Olympic athlete?
I don't know. I didn't know him before this story came
Well,
out.
that's the thing.
Is this so positive? This is so positive because somebody who has obviously had to deal with this their entire life has now decided to make that change and then making a massive statement because he or she or however that person wants to be known has made a massive statement by allowing Vanity Fair to take those photos and do that before and after and all this, the reasons why. And so he must have been in torment and then for a very long time and then actually wanting to go, you know what, there are other people like this out there, or take that stand and I will show that you can do it and you can be happy and you can be okay and it's fine. This is one of the most positive things that might have happened last week.
The reason it's a non-story though, in terms of like the Kim Kardashians, is everyone's being absurdly. So the whole point that everyone was happy for her, specifically with this story, where they were saying, "Wow, doesn't she actually look pretty good?" Like that's the standard you have to reach.
Okay.
Like, you have to look good as a woman.
Yeah.
There's no point even bothering transferring. So it's it's positive that that she was able to do it. It's positive that not many people except for Chris Brown and Snoop Dogg have publicly come out and been dicks about it. Those two have, but who cares what Chris Brown and Snoop Dogg do really?
Snoop Snoop Dogg, really? I'm surprised
he was upset because this was a huge news story, just as Akon has spent a huge amount of money developing this really, really cool infrastructure in his home country.
He invested in, I believe, in a college, which is going to train people to deal with...
Whatever he did. He did something that was good.
Yeah.
To people like Chris Brown and Akon, Chris Brown and Snoop Dogg, that was the story that should have been in the news. It wasn't in the news anywhere, by the way. It was barely in. I saw it because Chris Brown talked shit about Caitlyn Jenner, and then it got linked through to that.
Well, a lot of people were talking shit, especially on Facebook, but I expect that on Facebook. I think ESP, the other bit of the story was ESPN voted her the bravest person in the world. I don't know what the exact details was, but a rumour came out that there were other people that were rejected. One of them was an amputee soldier. So wherever I saw posts about Caitlyn Jenner, they had a post about, and this brave soldier's not worth the award. And it was a rumour that was
someone who willingly went into a war zone to kill people is being compared to someone who suffered with a mental condition for their entire life and has finally confronted it.
Well, funnily enough, anytime you put a story about a soldier in there, people get a bit fly. But it wasn't true. ESPN had never said that this person was in a running.
Right, so it was bullshit.
And it was just bullshit. But like I said, with that story about Akon and Caitlyn Jenner, why couldn't both of those stories be just in the press?
Well, it was just bad timing. It was bad timing, and people went with the story that they thought would be more popular, specifically in social media and in the times where especially gender issues and sexuality issues are becoming a huge thing. Like
are they, and have they not been for many
I think now with the way things are switching around, like I can't remember which, there's like 3 states that have very recently voted to make gay marriage legal. England did it 4 years ago?
No, it's still civil partnerships in England, I believe. Yeah,
I thought we voted is it not gone fully? I know we voted yes when it came up as an actual thing for people to vote on.
I'll check it, and the audience can let us know. I'm sure they will.
But no, it's a big thing now. The transgender thing has always been a thing that no one really wants to talk about.
Yeah,
because it's something where you can't. There's a lot of differing opinions on it, and you genuinely.
Is it the mentally ill, or is it genuine people that don't feel their genitals should be in place?
Yeah, or the amount, especially when it comes down to things like the NHS. Like
should you have it on the NHS?
Should it be allowed to be on the NHS? Should you? Of course you should, because it's clearly a mental condition. You can tell fairly easily if you talk to anyone who's transgender that it's not something that they're like, I don't like my dick very much.
Funny enough, in Iran, where I think homosexuality is illegal, transgender operations are given by the state, or it's legal to have them over there.
Which way?
Both ways.
Both ways, really?
Yeah. Look, it's a big issue. My tip to you guys is there's a show by the Wachowskis. You know the Wachowskis that did The Matrix and
Wachowskis or
Wachowskis? Wachowskis. And one of them went through gender. And they've got
holy shit! I thought that was his sister. I know who you mean now. Wow.
Although they were responsible for Matrix Reloaded and Revolution and the recent disaster of a movie Jupiter Ascending, there's a new TV show on Netflix called Sense8.
Yeah, Sense8.
And I get the feeling it's about Wachowski. Right, it's about her, because the show's all about being other people. There's a group of 8 people.
Yeah, and she can swap around.
And they can swap around with each other. They change. They can borrow their emotions or their knowledge or their power. Cool. One of the character is used to be a guy, became a woman, and it just follows. It's very meta. It's sort of like, it reminds me of you guys, because we're
very meta.
It's got a depth to it, right? It's got a depth to it that, like, it takes the discussion deeper. It's part action flick. If you like sex, there's a lot of it. Hey. And I think it's a great series, and I think it goes in a direction that I think.
Are we now sponsored by Netflix? Is this where you're going?
Netflix, if you want to sponsor us, we take your money. But yeah, I think watch that show, because I think it in itself takes the discussion to another level that hasn't been had, and it's brilliant. I've enjoyed it. I'm up to episode 10.
It's like do you remember when Queer as Folk came out?
Yeah.
that was a groundbreaking television series written by the same guy that brought Doctor Who back, and it was phenomenal. But about 4 or 5 gay guys going out on the pole and kind of their kind of soap opera.
This one does it,
it was groundbreaking. There should be. Why is there not a series in the public domain about a set of transgender people? Yada yada yada.
There was
so the rest of the nation can go. Oh, actually, okay, it's probably normal people going through normal things.
Well, this show handles it superbly well. I think like one of the main characters is gay, and it just follows his whole. If you do want an understanding of what it is to be a person, this show goes for it guns blazing.
Cool.
It doesn't hold back.
Might have to watch that then.
Even with the sex, it's like,
hey,
wow,
cool. Yeah, I gave Game of Thrones props for that. As much as I find it uncomfortable to watch because I'm not gay, and I just kind of like, oh, for God's sake, like, every time. Although I do that with most of the straight sexy, I'm like, fuck, can you just get back to what was Daenerys doing? I get like that a little bit with Game of Thrones, but you know, it's great that they can just be like, and now there's naked guys banging, boom, go. Like, it's still illegal to show dicks, but go for it.
It's as normal as, you know, anything else going on in this world. That's the reality behind all of these things. We just need to go. Everybody needs to kind of wake up and go like, oh yeah, of course it is.
It doesn't matter. That was actually the weirdest thing. I know I keep talking about Japan. I'm sorry, but it is every time we talk about a social issue, it's amazing just how much now I've realised how different it was the more I speak about things. But with homosexuality, they have this really weird attitude where they don't care, but it's a really positive thing and a massively negative thing, because they don't care if you're gay. No one will be mean to you. You might get a little bit of, you know, underhanded not getting promotions at work maybe, but then women have to deal with that as well. That's kind of part of a very elitist culture. But because they don't care about it, they will never ever make gay marriage legal, because they genuinely don't care. It will never be an issue. Like if you said, I'm gay and I believe I should be allowed to be married, they're like, it's the least important issue that we have to talk about right now.
Go get married then, we're not going to stop you, fuck off.
Yeah, they're like, go somewhere else, and like, we don't care. Like, but they won't make it legal. They won't let it be a thing that they do. Like actually sign a thing. I think they have civil partnerships, but they'll never change it, because to them it's a non-issue. Homosexuality does not matter in the least. It's like, it's great and it's terrible. It needs to matter a bit.
If you guys can watch Sense8 and maybe the next show we do, we'll talk about it, because I think it blew my mind. It really, last time my mind was blown like that was maybe when I watched Game of Thrones for the first time.
Really?
It really did just blow my mind.
I have a question about the Caitlyn Jenner thing now.
Yes.
So there was recently an MMA athlete, well, this wasn't that recently, it was a couple of years ago, who was transgender, and she didn't tell anyone, and she used to be a guy, is now female, had the full operation, is fully female biologically, but she was competing in a combat sport. And a lot of people wanted her done for attempted murder, because the same way that I said, if you take performance enhancing drugs, then you're
so you're basically saying a man became woman, went into a woman's sport, and then
because there's a runner who does it. I know there's a runner, and there was a Thai boxer, female Thai boxer, who battered guys. She was tiny, and she just loved it and cut her hair and looked quite male anyway, and went for it. I don't think. It's a difficult question. I'm not sure how I feel about it.
You're talking about genetics, If your genetics are male, then you should probably compete in a male.
But if you've been taking estrogen for long enough, you won't be able to generate muscle mass like a man. You won't be able to.
I think
it's a big grey area.
The best people to ask are doctors, and I think most doctors would say yes, they can, simply because of the fact that when you go through the change, they change your body. They don't just change.
But it doesn't change things that are the inherent physical gifts that a man has and a woman doesn't in terms of strength.
Yeah, but in terms of strength, you can get women who are stronger than men as well.
You can, right? But not... Okay, so let's say we have a woman and a man that weigh the exact same weight. Let's say I weigh right now like 80 kilos, which is big for me. Let's say I have another woman who's exact same height and weighs 80 kilos. If we had a fight, I would win. If we both had the same level of training, just purely on physicality, regardless of how much stronger than me she was. Like with Ronda Rousey, one of the most...
Statistically,
What I would say,
I suppose she could get me with something.
What I would say, Sonny, is again, there's too many presumptions in that statement alone.
Yeah.
And
what presumptions
I would also
are there?
say, same woman, same height, same training. I don't know if it's the case.
But that's how weight classes in combat sports work.
I don't know if you would actually.
They don't, but that's what they're supposed to do.
Again, what I'm talking about is once they've done a gender change operation, that changes everything up, and I don't think that's necessarily the case. It's like that poor girl from South Africa who, when she was a baby, she had male genitalia and the rest of it, but she also had female. She went on to be female runner, and she was beating everybody else, and everybody said she's a man. But again, if you ask any doctor, and I don't think I've heard any doctor come out and say that it's the case that if somebody has transgender, there'd be physically, if a guy goes to being a woman or a woman goes to be a man, there'd be any physically fitter than the man or the woman.
Have either you guys read any of the Red Dwarf books?
Red Dwarf books? No.
Books, yeah. So in one of those books, I don't know whether there's a whole planet or the Earth had gone to the point where they would genetically alter humans to be able to win at certain events in the Olympics, and it was all legal, and so you'd have kind of these like 12-foot, 100-meter runners.
That would be cool.
And they broke them down. So I mean, the concept had basically been out there for forever. It's just now it's in the public domain, and we're going, okay, should we be this? And are they doped? Are they not? And how do you get around that? And cheating, yada 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 yada. And the thing is, there are so many nuances in all of this. You can never be quite sure with anything or anyone or any of those things. And so, how does it become fair in the first place? In fact, all it is really a bit of a spectacle for all of us to just look at something and go like, "Ooh, that's nice."
They run fast.
Exactly.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to wrap up the show. We've lost half our group. But it's time to wrap up the show.
I've taken over a job.
We're going to wrap up the show, guys. Thank you again for coming down to Disorderly Conduct. I hope you've enjoyed yourselves.
Loved it.
I hope you'll come back again for maybe our last show, Lazy Fox. I don't know. We're always trying to find new places and new.
It's not going to get bought at all. This place, is it? It's actually going to come back and just be a pub again, and we're going to be here forever.
But either which way, ladies and gentlemen, guys, say good night.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
Good night, ladies and gents. Join us for the next episode of Disorderly Conduct soon. Woo.